Hello students, this is Professor McDonald. This is going to be a tutorial for the Intelligence Studies class relative to practical exercise number 5, use of the pseudoephedrine purchaser database. I'm using a new software program called OBS Studio, so I'm not real sure how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to try to not make this too lengthy because I have provided you specific details how to do this assignment, including a database instruction sheet that has information on the database itself and what some of the screens look like. But I thought what I would do is just kind of walk you through, using my cursor, some of the things that you can do with this database. Now, all the information in this database is fictitious. When you work the assignment, you'll have to download this if you're at home to your computer. When you're done with the assignment and submit your paper, I want you to delete this. This is a program that I've put together. I actually got the database from another source, but I've taken this thing and worked it into an assignment. And so I don't want this thing out in the public domain. So when you're done with this, delete it, please. If you have any questions with this assignment before it closes, reach out to me. If you're on campus, you can come by and visit me. We can have a discussion, or even you can bring your computer with you. If you're at home, you can either call or email me with questions, and I could even get on the phone with you if you're having some issues. What the scenario relates to is a Northern Pennsylvania Regional Drug Task Force. They're having a problem with methamphetamine in that area. Pseudoephedrine is a key ingredient to the production of the illegal drug methamphetamine. And if anybody's ever bought Sudafed or some of the other cold medicines that contain Sudafed, when you go to the drugstore or the whatever store you go to that sells the products, you actually have to show your driver's license. They enter that information into the database, and then you sign for it. And the reason they do this is to try to restrict the availability of pseudoephedrine in the marketplace for individuals that can then be turned around and sold to methamphetamine producers and distributors. Now, for this assignment, I've tried to make it as real life as I can. You're actually going to be an intelligence analyst with the Northern Pennsylvania Regional Drug Task Force in that area. And your job is to analyze this database. And this database would be a database from that area that contains the purchase of pseudoephedrine from the local population. And by looking at and conducting queries and analyzing the information, what you're looking for is individuals that are trying to usurp the system and purchase amounts of pseudoephedrine beyond what's lawfully allowed. Now, I provide that information in the scenario additional information database, in the scenario discussion, in the sense that, and the laws in Pennsylvania are very consistent with those in North Carolina, and that a person can only purchase 3.6 grams of pseudoephedrine a day with a 30-day maximum of 9 grams. So this is important to you as an analyst. When you're analyzing this information, you have to know what lawfully can be purchased. So when you go in here, you're looking for people that are trying to exceed those amounts. And what they do is, we call them Smurfs. These are individuals that go around and buy amounts of pseudoephedrine beyond what's lawfully allowed, and they sell the product, or they're working for the methamphetamine distributors and dealers. That activity is called smurfing, and it is unlawful to do that. If you get caught doing that, you can go to jail. And so there's various ways they can get around this, because if you try to purchase it by yourself, because you have to show your driver's license and other identification when you purchase it, once you reach that lawful limit, when you go to a store to try to purchase above it, they'll refuse to sell you. So what do individuals do? Obviously, one way to do it would be to create false identities to beat the system. And so that's kind of what you're looking for. And your job as an intelligence analyst is to identify individuals that are in this database that you think are smurfing and are buying pseudoephedrine beyond what the lawful limits are, and you provide that information then to the criminal investigators on the drug task force, who will then go out and surveil these individuals and conduct the investigation. That's really what this assignment is about, and this would be something you would actually do in the field if you were working with drugs. So that's kind of a little background on how the assignment works. Let's just look at the database itself. As you can see here, this is when you pull it up, this is the first thing you're going to see. This area here, if you were going to actually enter data or records, you would go in here and add purchaser records, that sort of thing. You're not going to be doing that. You're going to be working over here in this area called All Access Objects, okay? You'll be working primarily with the purchaser table. These are tables. The purchaser table, the purchaser details, and I have one or two queries. These are where the analyst is actually going in and created a query that they can use that makes the accumulation of information from the database much simpler to access. Now, some of you are very familiar with obtaining information from a database, so you probably might not even have to listen to this tutorial, but some of you might not have done this before, and you might find it useful. I'm not going to give you the answers. I might give you a couple of tips, but I just want to show you how you can do some of the sorts using this Access database and Access software that makes this assignment much simpler. So let's just take a look real quick. I'm going to click on Brand Names, and what you'll get here, these are the different types of medicines that you can purchase that contain pseudoephedrine, Sudafed being number one, and Claritin, Clarinex. These particular medicines all have varying amounts of pseudoephedrine in them. So we're done looking at this table. We want to close this here. Anytime if you close a table and it asks you to save, you always do not save. Save nothing. If you save something, you could manipulate the data itself, and if you do it by mistake, then delete the table from your computer, go back to Blackboard and download it again. It'll still be there in its original format. Now let's look at purchaser table right up here. I'm going to highlight it real quick. The first part of the assignment, you'll actually be working with the purchaser table. If you notice in the assignment itself, I'm actually telling you what you need to do. So I'm walking you through where to go in the database to obtain your information, and I'm even telling you how to set up your answers. You're going to be preparing a chart. But one of the things that you're going to need to do in this is to actually do some of the sorts using the database tools. Okay, let's look at purchaser. All right, what this is all the individuals who have purchased pseudoephedrine that exist in the database. All total, there's a little over 100 of them. How do we know how many? We can go here. Here's the first trick you can do with Access. Also Excel, you can do the same thing. You click on the column, and that highlights the entire column. You have two ways to do a simple sort. You can go up to the top where I'm showing you it says ascending. That would put it in, let's say, alphabetical order, and numerically it would start with 1 and go down to the highest number. If you use descending, it does just the opposite. You see, I just clicked on it, and it puts the highest number first. So technically, the highest number of a purchaser, individual is purchasing, is 113. The lowest number is 3, okay? Now this thing runs left to right, so purchaser ID number 3 is a person named Grubelski, first name David. So let's unhighlight this. Now let me show you another trick. You don't even have to go up to the top of the screen like this. You can do your sorts right here. There's a drop down here, and you can go smallest to largest, largest to smallest, okay? Very simple way to do this. Want to cancel that? Click outside the, click inside the box, and that'll take the sort off. Now here's another trick, and you probably should do this. You can open up these columns, Now, unfortunately, this database screen capture doesn't give me everything I need, but it gives you most of what I need. And so, like, for example, this is the purchaser's license. I told you that you have to, there you go, pull it over here. You have to show your driver's license. So this would be, here's a tip for you. This would be a very good way to look and see if there's any fraud using the driver's licenses. I know myself, if I was working question 1 in the assignment, this would be one of the sorts that I would do. Another good sort might be the address. And why would that be a good sort? Hey, maybe we got some of these Smurfs, these individuals that are living together, that sort of thing. So how can we sort this? A couple different ways. Let's go Z to A. That's the highest number first. You can scroll down and look yourself and look for anomalies within those license numbers. Let's go A to Z, lowest number first, and I would want to scan all those if I were you. Okay, so what we're seeing here is, and you just click on one of the blocks and it takes away the column selection. So this is what you'll look at with purchaser license, and exactly in the first question, this is most of your work is going to be in this table, identifying suspects. Okay, but I'm not going to give you any more than that because I want you to figure this out yourself. I'm just showing you how to use the database. Now, here's a identification number. I want you to make sure you take note of this. Each person has an ID number. Excuse me, because you will need this later on when you do some additional searches and queries on a particular individual. If you identify them as a subject, that purchaser ID number will come in handy. So make sure that you include that when you put your charts together, because then you'll have ready access to that number in case you need it. All right, I'm going to close this table. Do you want to save the changes? No. Always say no. Good. Now let's go to purchaser's details. Click it. There we go. And let's look at some of these blocks. Again, you got your purchaser ID, purchase ID. Every purchase in this database has got a number, okay? Every time a person purchased one of those products, it has a number. How many do we have? Let's just scroll down. Whoops. We got about 879 records in there roughly. Since we start with 6, it's about 872 records. So that's individual purchases. You could have people in here that are buying that purchaser IDs that bought more than one purchase. Okay, so that's something to think about. But this is an important table as well, because you will be using this table in question 2 in the analysis. And what you'll be doing then is, once you identify your suspects from the purchaser table, then you're going to go into the purchaser details table, and you're going to try to develop information to support your claim that these people are suspects. And I actually tell you how to set up a chart. So you'll have to use some charts in this assignment, and I'll tell you exactly what to put. For example, the name, the number of purchases, the total dates of purchases. When you read the assignment question, make sure I'm giving you a listing of what I expect to see in your table. Just remember, you're putting together a report for investigators to go out and investigate. So as a result, you need to give them something visually that they can look at that verifies why these people are suspects. Okay? Now, there's your purchaser ID. Let's just do again a real quick. We'll do a real sort, smallest to largest, largest to smallest. Okay, just real quick on how you can sort things out. Remember, you can open these things up a little bit if you need to. You might want to on the location, because now we're starting to get into locations. Okay. Don't try to, by the way, do not try to make the numbers match, number of grams per box or something like that. This assignment, remember, you got multiple individuals making entries at different pharmacies, and as you'll see, the Circle K, places that sell, Walmart, that sell these products. who knows how accurate some of the information they enter is. So we're not worrying about that. I'm giving you the information that you need relative to when you start searching how many grams a person purchases and that sort of thing. I'm telling you what to look for. I'm giving you the guidelines. So like here, you'll see number of grams. So what's that first line mean? Purchaser ID number 1. You'd have to go back and look at that person at the purchase, at the purchaser table. On July 1st, 2007, at the Albion Pharmacy, he bought 2 grams of pseudoephedrine, and he bought 5 boxes, and the brand name was Benulin. Okay, that's what it tells you. So out of those 5 boxes, there were 2 grams. Well, that's okay, but he also bought again at the BP store. He bought another 3 grams. Now, what does that tell you? Do we got a problem? Maybe, maybe not. Now, here's another thing that you can do. Looking at in this table, I'm just going to show you this real quick. You can filter out everybody, all the purchasers, and just highlight one purchaser if you want to look at them. Now, one thing we can do, it's easy to look at that as we've sorted this from smallest to largest. I can look down here and see number 1 here. He's made 4 purchases. Okay, let's filter that as well. And how do we do that? Let me show you real quick. You go down here to the filter, click. It says select all. You unselect everybody. We're looking at let's look at number 1. Purchaser ID number 1. We click OK, and bam, look at that. It takes everybody out of the table, and now all you're doing is looking at purchaser ID number 1. So you should, remember when I told you, when you're going to do this with all your suspects, okay? And when I look at purchaser number 1, then it gives me an idea how active this person is, what dates he purchased, how many grams he purchased, okay? So I'm going to close this. That's the filter option. Never save. It takes me right back to the database, okay? And then I can go back to that purchaser details if I want to. Let me show you one other area that you're going to be looking at. And don't forget, with that purchaser details, in addition to suspects, you're also going to be looking at individual stores where you see there's a problem. Yes, you could have stores that are in collusion, and that information is in this database. You just have to find it. Another real quick tool that you can do is the queries. In question 4, I tell you to open the total boxes in grams by purchaser query. That's right here. Click on that. Okay, very good. And you can do a couple of sorts here. Smallest to largest. Okay, so we know Joshua Booth here. How much did he buy? Let me just stretch this out. He bought 29 boxes, but that's interesting. Hold on. Cancel that. Sometimes I have a hard time getting, there we go. Looks like there's no grams in those boxes, so I'm not too interested with him because I'm really interested in purchaser grams, okay? Grams of pseudoephedrine, that's really where the money's at in this assignment. But I bet you can, I'm not going to do it for you, but I bet if you go largest to smallest, it might tell you who you want to look at, right? So let's just leave it at that. And then, of course, you have your purchaser license number, etc. Okay? Now, in the assignment, so what we're doing here with this one is you're going to identify the top individuals that you think are involved. Who are our top 2 suspects based on this query that you know based on the total grams purchased, okay? And then you can investigate them. How many grams do they purchase, that sort of thing. What is the total number of days? That's an interesting thing to look at too because the database runs only for about 3 weeks. This is about 3 weeks of information. And you'll also note that date is 07. I haven't updated this. I will next time I teach this class. Pay no attention. I've told you, you're working in, as far as you're concerned, this is 2007. It's not an issue. And then I'll also ask you from this database, to link your top suspects with their favorite pharmacies. So take a good look at that. And again, we're looking for that smurfing, these individuals that are going out buying large amounts. Now, I'm giving you a 10-point bonus opportunity to providing a critical lead to be followed by investigators during your analysis that is not addressed in the assignment. So I'm giving you some freedom here. I've given you some questions to help you identify suspects. Now you can go in there and earn 10 points by finding something out of the database that I haven't told you or I haven't directed you towards. I hope you enjoy this assignment. I think it's interesting. My classes that I've used it with in the past have found it not only challenging, but an interesting way to work. And believe me, you're going to use your analytical skills here, and you're going to, we live in a world of databases. So your ability to extract information and make meaning of it is very, very important. And I believe with that, I'm going to end this tutorial. I hope this is useful to some of you. If you find it is useful, let me know.